Good evening. It's 6:30 in India, and we are live on Express Expressions, a new initiative to discuss current affairs issues. The bottom line here is fear none, favor none. And today our guest is Mohandas Pai, a man who wears many hats: venture capitalist, finance professional, HR guru, philanthropist. Uh, we'll get him to wear each of those hats as we discuss this issue. Also joining me on this broadcast is Prabhu Chawla, Editorial Director, and an old friend and veteran
And a
journalist
colleague.
and veteran journalist and commentator who's seen many crises and many prime ministers.
And very fearless, very fearless.
Thank you.
So, Mon, how would you describe what's happening around the world now? You know, there's the pandemic, then there is the economic aspect of the pandemic. Uh, you know, in my own sense, I sort of describe this as well. Francis Fukuyama said, "End of history" in '92 or '93. I think this is really the end of history to it. At least it appears so. What's your take on what's the world looking like?
Well, I think it's a 1 in 100-year event. Remember the world in 1914, before the First World War, the age of empires, right? 1918, Russia was gone, Habsburg were gone, Ottomans were gone, the Germans were gone, and here in China, the Chinese emperor was gone. The whole world changed in 4 years. And that led to the Second World War, and the world changed again, right? Now we are seeing a very dramatic change for a very important reason. Unlike the First World War and Second World War, here 150 countries are involved and affected in the local territory. Remember, the war affected maybe 30, 40 countries largely in Europe and parts of Asia. And here 150 countries and all are affected. So it's very global.
That was more, in a sense, borderline and in terms of territory management. Here it is totally intragenous.
Yes. But you know, First World War, 16 million died, and Second World War, 60 million died. That changed the world. That's very different. The casualties are not so high, but all countries are affected. And that means that like the global financial crisis with the impact of the United States and UK and parts of Europe, maybe a little bit of Japan, this is something that we have not seen, all right? Second thing very important is expose the flaws in the global supply chain post the rise of China. China now has 24% of the world's manufacturing. China is the dominant exporter, importer, largest forex reserves, etc. And the world's dependence on China is impacted. China shut up in February, March, and manufacturing almost came to a standstill soon after. And the US discovered 92% of its drugs have some intermediaries from China. And that really showed the impact. And of course, Trump was going after China. So now there's a reordering of the global supply chain. And the reordering of the...
Here's a question there. I mean, I just wanted to hold your thought. I mean, the world thought that they had a global supply chain, whereas it was actually a Chinese
supply chain. Yes.
So do you see that changing? Do you see countries like US, India changing? You know, Prabhu is very excited about the Swadeshi pitch that was made yesterday by the Prime Minister. You know, whether that is going to translate into action. But more the global side, do you see countries actually vacating out of China because there are cost implications there? Cheaper goods from China can't be replaced easily.
Well, I agree. Cheaper goods can't be replaced, but you must know that wages have gone up 3-4 times in the last 10 years in China. And China is no longer as competitive. It's been going up the value chain. And going up the value chain in chip manufacturing, it has threatened South Korea, threatened Japan. And of course, the United States is very worried about the 2025 plan with AI and everything else. So now the world fears China and does not look to China to deliver low-cost goods. But China is becoming a very sophisticated, high-quality, high-tech manufacturer. So there will be a shift. Low-cost, labor-intensive industries will shift. They already come to Vietnam. They come to Cambodia and Southeast Asia. And they may come partly to India. So I doubt very much. The Japanese were spending $2 billion to shift manufacturing out of Japan. 500 companies, I think, have been identified as national champions, which have to shift. I think that's very important. So we'll see a gradual shift. And China's export-led growth strategy will have to change to a more domestic demand growth strategy because 55% of China's GDP is run on exports. I think, and that I think has to change. The third big impact is the oil industry. Now, why is the oil industry impacted? Yes, we saw shale gas go up. The US became the biggest manufacturer, and Saudi Arabia, Russia kept the price by cutting production, and therefore America benefiting. And now demand has come down from 100 million barrels a day to 70 million barrels suddenly. And when they tried to cut production, Russia did not play ball. Saudi Arabia cut production, increased production. And now they said they'll cut 9 million. We don't know whether 9 million is adequate for the next maybe 24 months. So I think...
the demand fall is 30 million and the cut of 10 million is not even enough.
Yeah, but some of the demand may come back, but economies are very deeply hurt for the next 2 years. I'll give you some numbers as we go along. And I think that's important. That means for the next 2 years, oil demand may be less than what it was last year. Now, this has a repercussion on the Middle East. Saudi Arabia is drawing down its reserves. They got a budget of $85. Now we've got Venezuela gone, Nigeria gone, Iraq is getting deeply hurt. So politics in the Middle East is going to be deeply impacted. And even America, the oil industry is coming down. If oil stabilizes at $35, $40 to a barrel, they're just about less than break even. So we got to see the repercussion. But the fact remains that the oil industry, which is a $4 trillion industry today, $4 trillion industry, is getting deeply hurt. And that has repercussions globally.
So I get that. A lot of this concerns also state finances, how governments are financed and how countries will sort of support their program. But for the John, Johnny or Janardhan in Bengaluru or in Noida,
I'll come to that.
What interests them is how does the world
I'll come to that
of technology change.
I'll come to that.
I want you to put your hat on as to whether work from home is for growth.
I'll come to the Shankkar. I'll come to that. Let me finish this global story, then we'll come to that, because I think it's important for us to know. Now look at travel, tourism, hospitality, which is probably the largest industry in the world and the largest employer. All around the world, devastated. International flights, we don't know when they'll start. National flights, we don't know when they'll start. Tourism, are you going to travel to Bali now and sit on the crowded beach? We don't know. Are you going to go to a restaurant in your hometown? We don't know. And all around, mass employment has come. But the service industry is devastated. Until we find a solution to the COVID or a vaccine, that is going to remain, hurt very badly. And then, because of all these, let us look at the impact on global growth. We just got some data. The US is down about, I think, 4.8%. The whole of Europe is down 3.8% last quarter. UK is down 2%. Japan is down. China is down 6.8%. Japan should be down some 3 to 4%. And for the whole year, IMF says the world GDP, which was growing 2.5%, 3% on $82 trillion, could be 3% down. I believe it could be 8 to 10% down. Now, 8 to 10% decline in global GDP this year is very severe, and possibly more severe than we saw in the global financial crisis. And if you look at this GDP decline now, you find that this quarter is going to be mayhem. Because, in April, the world was shut.
This is the real specter. This
is the real specter. And this will bring about rapid change. And then if you look at the jobs, America has got 30 million jobs gone. And the UK is hanging on a slender stimulus given by the Indian Chancellor, even though he's a UKite. And I think, unemployment is going to be a major issue for 2 years. And the financial markets, which you are an expert, $6.5 trillion of stimulus all around the world. Interest rates in the US, 0.25%, almost zero. UK is almost zero. Germany is zero. Unlimited bond purchases by Bank of Japan in Japan. That means the Fed balance sheet may go up to $12 trillion from $4.5 trillion. They're buying all kinds of stuff. Japan is buying. What does it mean? It means that interest rates globally for the next 2 to 3 years could be very, very low. And after some time from the developed countries, hot money could flow to the emerging markets, create an asset bubble and a stock market bubble. And that means the ability of the central banks to look at economic stimulus in future or to pump prime will be reduced. We don't know what is going to happen to the financial system 2 years from now. We've seen Japan for the last 20 years try to put money into the economy, buy government borrowing heavily. They've still not been able to raise growth. Yes, there's a population problem. So the world is hurt very badly, will remain hurt very badly. And now I want to talk about, with your permission, the impact on India.
So I don't know whether you're a Dire Straits fan and whether you heard Mark Knopfler. There used to be a song money for nothing, tricks for free. So basically, all the governments are sort of printing money now, and so let's sort of look at India. I'm going to sort of
Okay.
ask two questions. How do you see India having managed the pandemic? That's a short answer question, really. The second more troubling answer is that it took them pretty long to come out with their economic package, almost 2 months after other countries. Do you think the reasons were logical or were they astrological, as I always? And
Well,
then I'll let Prabhu also pitch in on his thoughts here.
Well, I think the pandemic was handled fairly well. Remember, Prime Minister took the great decision to clamp down and shut India down. Now, that is a very courageous decision. But like in the Mahabharata, you've taken the decision, but you don't know how to come out of it. Because when you come out, what do? There is no cure for the rest of the year.
Abhimanyu Chakra.
Abhimanyu Chakra. So we don't know what is going to happen. Now there has to be a political consensus. And today, all chief ministers, barring one or two in the east of India, are very scared to come out because they don't know what is going to happen. And in Maharashtra, the chief minister is telling the prime minister to take decisions. And now we have to localize decision making. But I think it's done a very courageous thing. We have now the experience of handling this. We have the experience. We have created capacity. We have created testing ability. We have trained people. We have put in money. So ability to handle any adverse fallout of the pandemic, the capacity has gone up tremendously. Prabhuji, you want to add here before I go to the economic impact?
So you moved from some place to another place. Suddenly from Toronto, you came down to Bangalore. I was just discussing. So I was just thinking that you spoke so much about what others are doing. So in that context, I would like to put this question to you because you have been talking about it on your Twitter handle and everywhere else. You talk about trillions being given by various governments from UK, by Indian son-in-law who was giving, he's the finance minister of UK now. But do you compare that packaging with Indian packaging? Do you make some sense out of Indian packaging by now? Or
Well,
is the packaging more complex than the simple statements the Prime Minister of India made?
Well, I think, there is a method in the madness. I would like to believe so. Because the first priority of the government is to take care of the people at the bottom of the pyramid. That they announced DBT, they gave some rations and everything is pretty good to keep body and souls together. Now the impact of all that on employment and migrants is being seen all over India. I don't think government of India, the state governments understood the extent of the migrants issue. How many people have come from outside doing very marginal jobs, what will happen to them and everything. The numbers are very, very huge.
Mon,
Yeah.
it's quite sad and ironic that India is one of the first countries to actually track circular and internal migration since the 70s. And that a government, when it takes a decision like this, shouldn't remember the 100 million migrants out. I mean, that's really sad.
Yeah, and it's very sad because none of the...
Just a minute, because I did not compete, because I am saying packaging is more important.
Yes, I'll come to the packaging.
Good at, Prime Minister more expert in selling everything which is there because he has been successful. I just want to raise a question because yesterday he spoke about Swadeshi and everything Indian, the slogan which he made about 3 years ago, Make in India. And down the line, he forgot about it. And suddenly the government now realized that Make in India was much more important. And when you look at the packaging, he announced 20 lakh crore. It was a headline which was grabbed everybody's attention. Today, after listening to the finance minister, I can't make out who has got the 20 lakh crore rupees. In what proportion? For example, Trump says, I'm sending you $1,200 every month into your pocket. In London, everybody says, I've sent so much of money, everybody's getting 2,000 pounds every year there. Here, I don't know what I have got and what you have got. There's such a complexity, a babudam, the bureaucratic language of the package, which may be very good. So don't you think that whatever he announces, bureaucracy converted into a maze of complexities? And I've got a message from now, somebody sent me various messages. Can you make anything out of it? I said, I am still thinking what is going to happen. Why there is no state packaging? Okay, real estate, for example, we are reducing interest rate to all the real estate by 3%. We are giving so and so income tax. No, nothing for the middle class.
I think
whole point, anything that, which you can say, okay, these are the 3 points. I only know 20 lakh rupees, 20 lakh crore rupees he has given. But I don't know where it goes, how will it go, because I don't see anything there. Don't you think there has to be some simple language that the Babus should be told how to convey?
Well, Prabhuji, my view is we have to wait another 4 or 5 days before we pass judgment. there's already a 1.7 lakh crore done stimulus to the bottom of the pyramid. Today, a 4 lakh crore was given. 4 lakh crore includes 3 lakh crore loan guarantees. That means they could be NPS at 25-30%. And then there's liquidity support for NBFCs. There is the big 50,000 crore fund of fund, etc. So I would value it about 4 lakh crores because the goose could come to rest. So I think the MSMEs have been taken care of right now. So 1.7 lakh crores plus 4 lakh crores, 5.7 lakh crores. And I think there's going to be a massive spending on infrastructure. There is going to be some more DBT for the bottom of the pyramid. But I don't think you and I are going to get anything. We are not going to have a package like Trump gave to say the middle class can get this kind of money. Because I don't think the government of India is concerned about so much of the middle class, but helping enterprises to have liquidity so they can employ people and wait for things to happen. So I think there's going to be a massive spending on infrastructure. For example, the 90,000 crores boost with state government guarantee for the discoms is a very good reform measure. And I think if you look at what is going to come tomorrow, day after, there is going to be a real estate thing. There is going to be one for technology. There is going to be one for infrastructure. I think they're packaging everything together and calling it 20 lakh crore to give an impetus. But the components we have to wait. Maybe 3-4 days later. Yeah. 3-4 days later.
What do you think? The Make of India slogan which he gave, why did he forget about it?
I think the Make in India requires the state governments to do many things rather than the central government. Central government can make policy, but central government can't give land. They can't reduce local corruption. They can't give power sanctions. So what Prime Minister should have done, in my view, is spoken to all the BJP chief minister, at least, who listened to him and told them you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the way to do it and monitor it like it does a project. I think that is where the missing link came because they didn't translate into anything in the ground. I'm in Karnataka. The same thing happened, what happened earlier. The chief minister will sit in a committee meeting and give approvals. Then the power fellows will not give power till you pay a bribe. Then the land fellows will not give you land till you pay a bribe or ask for a bribe. We don't pay bribes, so we just push them. But nothing changes the ground. And for the ground, the states have to behave. The states have not been told how to behave. Now this labor reform that UP is doing, Madhya Pradesh is doing, and Gujarat is doing, Karnataka is going to do, I think it's pretty good news because there's a coordinated strike. Of course, the opposition states may not do it, but competition will force them to do many things others are doing. So I think
Mohan,
the Make in India, yes.
Mohan, this labor reforms, I just wanted to interject that. The labor reforms are less labor reforms and more insolvency reforms. No, I mean, to protect the enterprises from going bust, you allow people to sort of retrench. That's fine. But the real labor reforms that are required as the world is changing, you will require people to be employed by hours, by weeks, by months and seasonally, depending on which containment zone you are or your workplace is or what you might pass through. I mean, there are parts of India where you can't go from red to green or rather green to green without passing an orange or a red zone. So those reforms are one thing. The other thing about these packages, I found two interesting things. One is the equity support to MSMEs. Although 10,000 crores fund of funds is really
small,
as they say among
Kosuru.
So, but the thing is that the governments, in state governments and central governments, owe people almost 90,000 in income tax refunds.
Yes.
There is so much tax money stuck in disputes. The money that small, medium power projects, road contractors, affordable housing, all of this is apparently to the tune of 3 lakh crores.
Yes.
Now today the finance minister said that we will pay MSMEs in 45 days. But the last time she said that was in October or November, and still money has not been paid. So what is the credibility of this? And why can't government first own up its obligation and pay up? As an accounts person, what is your thinking here?
Shankkar, for that we require a very bold finance minister with the support of the prime minister to say, I'm going to take a one-time hit. I'm going to clean up all the past payments. I'm going to float a special series of bonds, the reconstruction bond, and pay up everything. Like you said, 3 lakh crores. 3 lakh crores comes back to the industry. That is their money.
Yeah.
That is them. That's the biggest stimulus because they don't require grants. They don't have to borrow money. They don't have to pay interest. for example, that 14% guaranteed, semi-guaranteed funds for the GST to the states, why don't they give it? Hopefully they'll do it. I think it will come because the states are the ones who have no money and the states have to execute. Delhi cannot execute for us in Bangalore or Chennai or anywhere else. So we need the states to be strong. But the money has to flow to the states. I think this is a bold move. I think they're doing it in bits, which is very unfortunate because if they say in the next 60 days, we're going to pay highway dues, railway dues, health dues, small scale industry dues, tax dues, all the refunds will be paid in 60 days and you're going to get your money. That will be the biggest boost they can give because these people's own money.
Yes. When you're talking about big money to be paid to various people, outstanding loans, refunds which Nirmala announced about a couple of months ago that they are being sent. I don't think anybody has yet received them, most of them. And number two, from the media industry, I read in the newspaper, I don't want to speak on it. In the small amounts, the state government and central government, due to the media, is not releasing. 1,600 crore rupees that they are not releasing it. So they are asking, don't tax people, don't reduce the system is so bad. Intentions of the leadership is very good. But the implementation at the down below level is very, very poor and there was no accountability. I have not seen a Babu being sacked for not implementing the wishes of the Prime Minister. How do you fix accountability in the system? That's the question I want to raise.
Prabhuji, today the Prime Minister has to take the hard decision of ensuring the promises he made to us for the 20 lakhs, the promise made by the Finance Minister is carried out. And I think he has to do it because that's the only way to bring the economy back on stream. They will remain promises which have been for a long period of time. Now this 3 lakh crore loan guarantee, if MSMEs do not get it within October, what is the point? So I think they must set up a review mechanism every 15 days, make a list of all the payments. Why can't they pay the media 1,600 crores? That is peanuts. 1,600 crores enable you to pay your staff, keep the jobs going. Otherwise, where will you get money? You run a newspaper, you don't print currency. You print only news.
Because that paper should become the currency. That's the only option.
You're not printing currency.
That is what many of you people started doing.
You're printing news, not currency. And now you're digital too. Now we're digital. You don't have a Bitcoin factory.
I'm raising a bigger
I agree.
Bigger question.
I agree.
There is the question about states are responsible for this. Yesterday, Prime Minister spoke about 5 L's. Two of them were labor and land. And labor. On that, the package, Nirmala has not spoken about it. And you are saying that it will come next couple of days. We'll see what happens in labor reforms and land reforms. Because there the land, if they want to acquire the land from the industrialists, not from the farmers. The question is that has to change. Let the industry buy directly from the farmers. Only revenue department should not come into the picture. Like Karnataka, they have done it. You don't need any permission. You don't need any permission for anybody buying. So land reforms and labor reforms are required. But the question is how you bring states and the center at the same page. Yesterday, Chief Minister was asking something else. You are doing something else. There has to be some, what I call the national plan, national governance agenda, where all the chief ministers and prime ministers sit together. Okay, this is for next 1 year. This is our agenda, national agenda for governance. Is there a possibility or not?
Prabhuji, if you can be the intermediary and talk to Mamata Banerjee and possibly talk to some of the opposition leaders who are egged on by a very prominent politician in New Delhi, you know from where, maybe it will work. But you know, there is this.
But Mohan,
Yes.
You know, he will also have to speak to Nitish Kumar, who is an ally of the BJP and who is dancing to a new tune.
No, Shankkar, but the first nod should come from the ruling party, whether they are willing to people.
But Shankkar,
they can. If I'm telling you, Prime Minister has such a good credibility with the people, he himself speaks to everybody else, they will agree. First initiative has to come from the leader who is leading from the front.
And also, if the BJP states do it, for example, UP does it, Gujarat does it, Karnataka does it, and Madhya Pradesh does it, that is 40% of India.
Yeah.
And if 40% of India is able to do it and they're able to implement it, and I think it'll work. I think in NDA one of the major drawbacks was they were not able to get the states to do what the center had decided and follow it up. I think the center did a lot, but the states were not able to do it because the states have to do all the reforms to get things off the ground. And none of the chief ministers were properly briefed. They didn't understand it. They tried to do half-heartedly, then played politics. I think that's the failure. Hopefully in NDA 2, that will not be there because I think we have seen the labor thing come about. I think Yogi Adityanath is driving it. The states are desperate. Of course, Madhya Pradesh has brought in the agriculture reform, which are done in the first term, but they're not done. And you know, Shankkar, if you look at the agriculture growth in Madhya Pradesh, they're producing much more than Punjab. is a great success story in agriculture for the last 15 years. Now, I'm very hopeful, Shankkar, because I've been living in hope for the last 30 years. Prabhuji, you are an editor. I'm a industrialist or a venture capitalist. I've been living on hope for the last 30 years. And I've seen India grow. So I'm still hopeful. It's not 100% perfect. You come to 70% from 50%. I think is fantastic. I think, Prime Minister Modi can do it. And like I said in the TV interview yesterday, that for the Prime Minister, the second year of the second term, if you don't take all the decisions now and clean up this year, next 3 years, you're going to have a series of elections. You won't be able to do anything. So this year is the most crucial year for NDA 2. The first year of NDA 2 is gone. We had this COVID, we had a slowdown the economy, nothing much happened, even though they tried. This year, with this 20 lakh crore, you have to have a massive drive upward to take growth up to $5 trillion, possibly by 2026, because 1 year is lost. So I think we have to wait for a little bit more time. But the challenge in India is execution. It does not percolate from the secretaries down to the case officer. The case officer does what you want. They're beyond control. In the income tax, Shankkar, you must have known, in NDA 1, the disputes went up from 4.5 lakh crores to 9 lakh crores. And Jaitley promised us end of tax terror, but tax terror increased because the disputes increased to 9.5 lakh crores.
They have a
9.5 lakh crores.